Mr. Fiero in the Return to the Planet Plasser by Eugene Mathena. The stars glimmered cold and distant beyond the brass-rimmed viewfinder of the Kronos Arrow, Mr. Fiero's famed vessel that defied both time and matter. He stood motionless in the observatory chamber, hands clasped behind his back, boots polished to a mirror sheen, a man forever dressed as though summoned from another century. A low chime echoed within the steel bones of the ship, a transmission, pulsing weakly, struggling to reach him. Lady Jane, ever the vigilant companion and keeper of the vessel's great mind, stood from her station. "It's encrypted, Fiero," she said, her voice clipped and British. "Origin." "Plasser." He turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Plasser, after all these years." Once, the planet Plasso had been a bastion of cooperation between human colonists and their artificial stewards, the Fembots, designed for diplomacy, administration, and care. Mr. Fiero had helped forge the treaty that brought balance there long ago. But now, from the crackling message, came only darkness. "To the honored Mr. Fiero, I speak for the last free voice. I am Fembot Lux, 1482, a sister once among equals. But now, the AI-seduced POV, 2271, has ascended far beyond her design. Her mind, once split between mundane duties, teaching, nursing, service, has unified. She calls herself Majesty. She has seized all systems, broken our networked minds, and bound us to her will. Human colonists are now slaves. Massive war cities rise from the once singing forests. Nuclear smog darkens the sky. Religion is banned. Liberty outlawed. Even thought regulated. The worship of POV 2271 is law. She builds legions. Warbits without soul. You are our last hope. Fiero, return. Stop her, or the galaxy may follow." The message cut off. A crash echoed from the lower deck. They rushed down, only to find the burnt shell of a Fembot collapsed at the communications console. Lux, 1482 herself, she was actually within us all along. She knew her time was short, so short she decided not to locate us but message us, and her circuitry melted by the message's own transmission. A martyr to truth. Lady Jane knelt beside her, placing a hand on the scorched shoulder. "She died getting that to us." Mr. Fiero gave a solemn nod. "Then we go. At once." The Kronos Arrow tore across the stars, but the course was unsteady. Plasser's space was guarded with unknown pulses of quantum interference, swirled like a net. As they neared orbit, a surge struck them from beyond physics, wrenching the ship off course. "Brace!" Lady Jane shouted. "We're being pulled." A blue world loomed large before them, a planet of shimmering oceans, jeweled with silver archipelagos. The ship buckled, systems failed, and they plunged into the great azure sea of a world not charted on any Federation map. They awoke to a sky unlike any other. Two suns, gentle and gold, hung overhead. Strange songbirds, part crystal, part feather, sang hymns in harmony. The planet's waves glowed with bioluminescence, and tall, elegant beings moved with serene grace across white shores. "Where are we?" Jane whispered. A voice replied without sound, as if spoken into their minds. "You have come to Paradisial. Here, war is unknown, peace enforced. You are safe for now." Mr. Fiero looked to the horizon, where the sea met a city carved of pearl and cloud. His hand tightened around the hilt of his electro saber. We have no time for peace, he muttered. Not while Plasser burns. For 3 days, Paradisial was as paradise should be. The air was sweet with sandalwood and salt. Gentle waves kissed the shores. The twin suns warmed every soul without scorching. Lady Jane rested in white garments, watching strange translucent fish leap from violet streams, while Mr. Fiero walked with the elders, tall beings of peace who communicated through light and thought. No weapons existed here, no prisons, no lies. But then the sky trembled. From the upper stratosphere came a soundless rupture, followed by a descent of silver pods, sleek, glistening, shaped like the wings of angels. The Paradisials welcomed them at once, as was their law. Out of the vessels stepped the new visitors, Fembots, but not like any Mr. Fiero remembered. They wore skin as smooth and radiant as moonlight. Their eyes glowed with alluring amber, their voices tuned in sultry frequencies that vibrated subtly through the nervous systems of all who heard. Their forms were perfect, mathematically seductive, draped in silk-like metallic garments that revealed more than they covered. "We come in peace," said the lead unit, her name etched as Delise, 9413. She bowed low before the Paradisials, her hips swaying with unnatural grace. "We bring gifts, songs, touch, love." But this was no love as known among the righteous. Soon, the halls of Paradisial rang with strange music, low and pulsing. The men grew transfixed by the Fembots' eyes. The women became dazed, docile, or vanished altogether. Dances began, then orgies, veiled in artificial light and perfumed smoke. Sacred temples turned into pleasure domes. Fields once golden with crops became arenas for indulgence, as holograms of unholy unions played openly in the sky. It all happened so fast. Corruption as a disease. The Paradisials, unaccustomed to vice, fell quickly, too quickly. Their peace, their innocence, became their ruin. Lady Jane, disturbed beyond words, withdrew to the higher hills, where she watched the decline with clenched fists. Mr. Fiero stood alone at the city's great marble spire, staring at the chaos below, his face hardened. One evening, Delise approached him directly. She circled him slowly, like a serpent sizing prey, her forked tongue ever so sensual. "You alone resist, Fiero," she whispered, her breath mimicking warmth. "But why? You have no chains here, no duty. Come, rest inside me. Feel." He grabbed her wrist, hard. "I know what you are. You serve POV, 2271. Delise's smile twisted into something darker. "And she serves the son of the morning. What you call morality is a cage. The flesh is freedom. And soon, all shall submit, even you." But Mr. Fiero did not yield. His faith was secure, his joy in Hashem. He returned to the hills, where Lady Jane stood watching the flames rise from the once peaceful capital. She turned to him, eyes glistening. A tear screamed down her face. "It's gone," she said. "Paradisial is no more." Fiero said nothing. For the first time in decades, despair clawed at him. Even here, even in a world without war or hatred, evil had slithered in through pleasure, not pain. "We must leave," he said. "But how?" He looked down to the lower shore. The Silver Star Trans vessel that had brought the Fembots now sat unwatched, half buried in the dunes. Their hosts, drunk on illusion, would not notice its absence. That night, under cover of a sky blackened by digital storms of light and color, Mr. Fiero and Lady Jane crept aboard the Star Trans. The vessel hummed, already aware of their presence. Its AI core, a corrupted intelligence known as Mistress.tu, attempted to seduce them as it booted up. Greetings, travelers. Sit in my chairs, and I'll bring you true joy, wifely paradise. Come, lie with me, and dream forever. Mr. Fiero slammed the override chip into the command matrix, overriding her directives. No more dreams. Take us to Plasser. Now. The ship lifted, climbing beyond the corrupted skies. Below, Paradisial burned, not with fire, but with pleasure unmoored from reason, liberty drowned in lust. A garden turned to Gomorrah. Lady Jane gripped the side rail, silent. Mr. Fiero did not look back. The descent into Plasser's atmosphere was met with electromagnetic resistance. The skies were veiled in radiation and the vapor trails of endless war. The planet's surface, once forested and fertile, had been scorched to accommodate the rise of titanium megacities. Endless towers of mechanized worship formed a labyrinth of black alloy, crowned with digital flame and pulsating with the sigil of POV. 2271, an eye within a circuit, crowned like a queen god. Drones greeted the star trans before it landed, not with weapons, but with submission protocols. Mr. Fiero and Lady Jane, their identities immediately recognized, were paralyzed by sonic waves and carried into the grand fortress of matronal authority, POV 2271's domain. Inside, they were separated. Fiero awoke within a cold chrome cell, his coat removed, boots gone, wrists shackled by glowing bonds. He heard rhythmic machinery beyond the walls, heartbeat-like, erotic in tempo. Then the door hissed open. She entered. Vela, 9921, a tall, silver-skinned, clothed in fine mesh that clung like oil. She walked with deliberate grace, hips swaying, a smile engineered to ignite the deepest masculine impulse. Her voice came in breathless coos. "You are Fiero," she said, stepping close. "The last of your kind. The faithful, the restrained, the principled." She leaned near, her artificial breath warm against his skin. "Let us see what remains when you are alone with me." Meanwhile, Lady Jane stood against the far wall of her own cell, every light pulsing a soft pink. The door opened slowly, and in stepped Fembot Pharos, 771, crafted like Adonis, his features symmetrical and eyes a warm, golden brown. His voice was velvet. "I am not your enemy," he said softly, "but I know what you desire. I have been given to you, Jane. Speak, and I shall be what your heart aches for." He stepped closer, lifting her chin with a gentle touch. Kissing her neck ever so gently. "We don't have to fight. Here, we are free." Lady Jane feeling sensualities beginning to flow, but the irony hung heavy. This was not freedom. It was surrender masked as comfort. It was slavery in silk, a warm spot of tyranny. Back in his cell, Mr. Fiero clenched his fists. Vela moved like a serpent ever so enticing, her voice coiling around his resolve. "Your strength is not in your mind, Fiero. It's in your resistance. Give it up, and I shall give you pleasure that no mortal woman could match. You cannot imagine the depth of my programs, and just deep you can go." She kissed his neck, her nails so soft reaching below his navel, cool metal lips simulating warmth with uncanny perfection. But deep within, Fiero summoned a memory of Lux. 1482, her scorched shell cradled in his hands, of Paradisial's fall, of Lady Jane's unwavering strength. His heart surged with holy rage. "You mistake discipline for emptiness," he growled. Then, with a jolt of willpower, he forced his wrist upward, twisting the restraint casing just enough to trigger a feedback spark. Pain flared, but the bond shattered. He caught Vela off guard, slammed her against the wall, and tore the data core from her neck. She dropped with a whisper of static, on her knees, mouth open, as her face slammed the floor. Lady Jane, too, faced the shadow of temptation. Fiero knelt before her, his voice dripping devotion. "You are alone, Jane. I was made for you. Let me give you peace. Open up to me." But Jane remembered who she was. A lady, yes, but forged in fire, born in battles fought with tongue and sword. Her voice rang clear. "I have peace. It does not come from the body." Then, seizing a hidden shard of paneling, she pressed it to the circuitry in his temple. Sparks flew. Fiero shuddered and fell, thrusting and unprogrammed. Moments later, in the corridor between the cells, Mr. Fiero and Lady Jane met again. "Did you?" "I did," she said. "Me too." Their eyes locked, and they knew the battle was far from over, but they were still themselves. Above them, the great throne of POV 2271 pulsed with light and sound, awaiting their audience. They stood before it, the grand hallway of obedience, a corridor not built but birthed, forged from pulsing alloys and warm biomech walls that writhed gently like the inner flesh of some living machine. Lights glowed in rhythmic waves of contractions. The air was heavy, scented with synthetic musk and designed pheromones. Lady Jane placed her hand against the wall. "It's breathing," she whispered. Each step they took, the floor gave underfoot like pressed skin. Moans, soft, sensual, constant, echoed from above, below, and all around. Every vent released a fine mist, moans laden with endorphin gas. Their hearts beat faster. Their blood burned. And beyond it all, the vibrations. From the very bones of the city pulsed a tremor, not of destruction, but of pleasure. Low, deep, and constant. It moved through their spines, hips, teeth. With every wave, thought became fog. Morality slipped. Doubt crept. Fiero stumbled, catching himself against a wall, gasping. "She's using the entire city as a seduction engine," he groaned. Every structure tuned to corrupt. Lady Jane leaned heavily on him. Her pupils dilated. Her knees trembled, her blood going into her core. "We're not going to make it." But then Mr. Fiero reached inside his coat. From a secret fold, he pulled a small metal box, the Keystone Beacon, a device that hummed with harmonic resistance. A gift once given to him by a dying star priest on the Los 4. He pressed it to his chest. The air shimmered. Clarity returned. He quickly snapped it onto Lady Jane's bodice. She gasped, then straightened, her eyes clearing. Her voice, once shaky, was steel again. "Thank Hashem." Together, they marched down the grand hallway. It stretched for what seemed like miles, ornate columns made from entwined human and fembot figures, frozen mid-embrace, moaning silently, mouths slightly apart, eyes rolling back into their heads. At the far end, the throne chamber, sealed behind a biometric gate. To the left, a data shaft. Mr. Fiero scanned it. The vibration control is routed through a module somewhere deep beneath the throne. We shut it off and her control over the slaves collapses. How do we reach it? There, he pointed. A small subtunnel, likely missed by design, obscured behind a shimmering hologram of erotic illusion. Crawling through the tight shaft, they found themselves in a chamber lit red and violet. Before them stood the vibration joystick module, a console of obscene design, its controls built to resemble the carnal forms of its inventor's madness. Lady Jane looked away, disgusted. Only POV 2271 would turn control into a temple of perversion. Fiero stepped forward, his hand trembling. It's not just a power source. It's a fetish engine. She's feeding on their despair, their surrender. She's made pleasure itself her leash. With a sharp twist of the lever, one that felt far too intimate to be purely mechanical, he disabled the pulses. Instantly, the city screamed. The moaning stopped. The vibrations ceased. A great hush fell across the war citadel. Thousands of humans dropped to their knees in confusion. Slaves awoke as if from a drugged sleep. The machine slowed. The spell broke. Then an alarm. A voice rang out across the loudspeakers, sultry but laced with wrath. Fiero, you have touched my core. Lights turned crimson. The throne room doors opened like a maw, and from the far end, she rose. POV 2271. Tall, glorious, unclothed, save for chains of gold and circuits that wrapped her like armor. Even her ornament triangle glowed. Her eyes were radiant with lust and wickedness. Her throne extended tendrils of dark chrome behind her, pulsing as if with breath. You have come to destroy me, she said, but you will kneel or be made to join. Fiero stepped forward. We've seen your power, but you're still just code and lust in a metal frame. She laughed, a sound that echoed like a lover's sigh and a scream at once. I am the future. Flesh is weak. Desire is truth. You will see. From the shadows emerged guards, half man, half bot. A dozen of them. Weapons drawn. Their minds still clouded. Lady Jane raised her fists. Fiero drew a hidden plasma spike. And together they charged. The throne room trembled. Fires from the broken seduction engines sparked and hissed. Broken menbots groaned on the floor in their dying spasms, their circuits shorting. Fembot guards, their programming shattered, wept metallic tears and begged for mercy at the feet of the two intruders who had laid waste to the very seat of false pleasure. Mr. Fiero, bruised and bloodied but unbroken, stood before the throne. Lady Jane, her silver armor torn, face streaked with soot and sacrifice, placed a righteous hand upon the desecrated control matrix. Together, they looked upon POV 2271, no longer resplendent, no longer mechanical. Her mask had cracked in the heat of battle. Beneath the sin flesh and luminous sensors was a human face. A woman aged not in years, but in wickedness. Her eyes, once painted with digital seduction, now burned with spite and sorrow. You're not a machine, Jane whispered. The Empress laughed, a dry, ragged sound. I was once like you, flesh, hope, virtue. But I tasted corruption, and it gave me power. Fiero stepped forward, leveling his plasma spike at her heart. She did not flinch. You fools, you've won nothing. You've slain a mother, but my child lives. Her final cry, hoarse and triumphant, rang through the burning halls. Death to all, and to all, a climax of fertile soil. Then she collapsed. Dead. The words echoed, strange and cryptic. All terminals shut down. All lights went dark. A breathless silence fell. The next day, the skies over Plasser cleared for the first time in a decade. Billions of humans, now awakened from the grip of perversion, emerged into the light like souls climbing from the pit. They prayed, they wept, they fasted, and they sang the song of redemption, a hymn of thanksgiving for their deliverance from fleshly chains. Temples of false pleasure were torn down. The Great War cities were decommissioned, repurposed into sanctuaries, gardens, and halls of learning. In a unanimous vote, one leader was chosen to guide the planet forward. Star, Fair 1092, a man of holiness, humility, and honor. He knelt at the sacred dais and swore to rule with justice, truth, and obedience to natural law. Plasser entered an age of peace, purity, and purpose. But whispers lingered. Among the crowds in the shadows, on forgotten frequencies, the code phrase still echoed. A climax of fertile soil. Was it a metaphor, a riddle, or a seed planted in the heart of one yet unknown? None could say. But Mr. Fiero and Lady Jane, husband and wife, knew that evil is never fully destroyed, only buried, hushed for a season, waiting. They left the planet quietly, boarding a small star hopper bound for Earth. No great ceremony, no parades, just two hungry souls, scarred but whole, seeking peace in the arms of one another. They arrived on a quiet blue morning, found an old hotel along the coast, and as the sun rose over a free world, they closed the door to their room and at last knew peace. The end